the midnight sighting in Decatur woods. This incident reportedly took place in late October of 2008 in a quiet residential area on the outskirts of Decatur, Indiana. At the time, the witness, whose identity has been withheld, was approximately 11 to 12 years old. They had been staying at their uncle's house for several days. The property sat near a dense stretch of woodland, a forest locals often described as unusually dark, even during daylight hours. At night, the trees seemed to absorb what little light remained, leaving the backyard almost completely swallowed in shadow. On the night of the incident, sometime close to midnight, the witness found themselves unable to sleep. The guest room had a small window looking directly into the backyard, and beyond that, into the forest. Under normal circumstances, the view was unremarkable, but that night, something stood just beyond the tree line. At first glance, it resembled a person, tall, thin, completely still. But as the witness continued watching, something about it felt wrong. Its arms appeared unusually long, hanging lower than they should have. Its head was tilted slightly, at an unnatural angle, as if it were observing, listening. The witness blinked repeatedly. The figure did not move. Despite the growing fear, the witness remained frozen, unable to look away. They later described the sensation as suffocating, as if the air in the room had grown heavier. Then, without warning, the figure stepped forward. Just once. But it was enough. Enough to reveal that its legs did not bend like a human's. They bent backwards. Its eyes did not reflect light like an animal's. They glowed. The witness instantly dropped beneath the window and crouched on the floor, heart pounding, terrified that even a second longer of eye contact might draw its attention. They stayed low, straining to hear movement outside, but there were no footsteps, no rustling, no sound at all, only silence. The following morning, the witness asked the other children in the house if they had ever seen anything in the woods. One of them laughed, but the other didn't. They reportedly went pale and leaned in close before whispering, "Don't talk about it. Uncle doesn't like us mentioning what lives out there." No explanation was given, and the subject was never brought up again. No official reports were filed. No further sightings were confirmed. But years later, the witness still remembers what they saw with unsettling clarity. The way it stood motionless at the edge of the trees, waiting. And sometimes they still wonder, if they hadn't looked away, would it have come closer? So the question remains, was it simply a trick of the dark, or something far more disturbing? The scream on Blue Ridge Parkway. This incident reportedly took place in the spring of 2017 along a remote stretch of the Blue Ridge Parkway in the Appalachian region of the United States. The witness, a college student at the time, had become familiar with the warnings often shared by locals about the surrounding forests. Do not whistle in the woods at night. Do not respond to distant cries. And above all, avoid the forest from dusk until dawn. On this particular night, that final rule was ignored. The witness had driven out with their partner to watch the sunset. They parked along an isolated stretch of road, far from hiking trails, campsites, or nearby buildings. As darkness settled in, the two remained in the car and eventually drifted off to sleep in the back seat. Roughly 45 minutes after sunset, the witness woke abruptly. Something felt wrong. The forest had gone completely silent. No insects, no wind, no movement. Then came the unmistakable feeling that something outside was watching them. Sensing danger, the witness tried to quietly wake their partner. Before they could say a word, a scream exploded from the woods beside the car. It was close, not distant, not faint. The witness later described it as sounding like a grown man screaming in absolute terror. Though certain animals can make human-like cries, the witness insists this was different. This sounded human. Acting on instinct, they jumped into the driver's seat and reached for the ignition. As the engine started, another sound followed. Laughter. Loud, erratic, unnatural. Then came footsteps, fast, heavy, and closing in. Something was running directly toward the vehicle. The witness slammed on the accelerator and sped away from the scene. Neither of them spoke during the entire drive back to campus. No reports were ever filed. No known individuals were documented in that area that night. There were no trails, no campsites, and no reason for anyone to have been deep in that section of forest after dark. The witness has never returned to that stretch of parkway. Years later, they still remember the silence, the scream, and the sound of something rushing toward them in the dark. And they remain certain of one thing. Had they waited even a few seconds longer, they may not have escaped. So the question now is, who or what was running toward them out of the darkness? Residential home, United States. This incident reportedly took place a few years ago inside a private residence in the United States. The witness, their name disclosed for privacy, was alone in their house at the time. It was late at night. They were upstairs in their bedroom, lying on the floor, surrounded by blankets and pillows, watching YouTube. At first, everything seemed and felt normal, until they heard a very faint noise. Footsteps, coming from downstairs. Subtle, easy to dismiss. The witness initially assumed it was nothing, just the house settling, or their imagination. But then it happened again, clearer this time, deliberate. No one else was supposed to be inside the house at the time, yet the sound continued. Moments later, the footsteps reached the staircase and began to climb, slow, heavy, unnatural. The witness later described the pattern as disturbing, as if whatever was walking was taking 2 steps per stair. One, pause, then another. The sound echoed through the house, growing closer with each step, until eventually it reached the top and stopped. No footsteps in the hallway, no doors opening, just silence, directly outside the same bedroom they were in. At this point, the witness reacted. They pressed their hands firmly against the bedroom door, using their body weight to keep it shut. Then, the handle didn't move. There was no knocking. Instead, the door was pushed, hard, with enough force to shift the witness slightly across the floor. But it didn't open. It stopped suddenly, as if whoever or whatever was on the other side had paused or reconsidered, and then nothing. No footsteps, no movement, no sound at all. The witness eventually checked the entire house, every room, every corner, every entry point. Everything was locked. No signs of forced entry. No one inside. Years later, they still cannot explain what happened that night. They remember the footsteps, the pacing, the silence outside the door, and the moment it pushed back. So the question remains, if no one else was in the house, what was standing on the other side of that door? If you've made it this far into the video and have enjoyed it, please drop a like and subscribe for more. We'll see you in the next one.